Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to 100% Humboldt, where we talk to people that make a difference in Humboldt. I'm Scott Hammond, and my new best friend.
Oh, there you go.
Hi, Gregg.
A difference. You didn't say a positive difference or negative difference.
Gregg Foster, my new best friend who makes a positive difference in Humboldt.
Perfect. And is 100% Humboldt.
You are? You were born and bred?
Yep.
Really?
I was bred and born, yes.
It's good to know
that order. Yeah.
TMI, man. Are you from Ferndale originally?
No. I live in Ferndale now, but I was born in Garberville because that's where the hospital was.
Right.
And then grew up in Miranda.
Wow.
And moved away from there in 1983, although I came back in the summers for a couple summers.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Summer days in Miranda.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
So we just saw Tommy Emmanuel and his one of his guitar players. Actually, he was a slide guitar player, Dobro. He grew up down there, and he was remembering all the stories of summers at Grandma's.
Oh, yeah. No.
I think in Miranda or somewhere close.
It could be, yeah. I mean, when I was a kid in Miranda, we had, at least 1, 2, 3, 4 operating sort of resorts or motels.
Right.
And so a lot of people came down and from up here to enjoy the sun.
They said they do the chores of the morning and swim all day.
Yep. Well, and it's funny because there were 2 motels with pools in Miranda, one being the Miranda Gardens and the other being the Whispering Pines, which is up on the hill. And townie kids like us were never allowed to go in the Miranda Gardens.
Why?
Pool.
Because a resort?
Oh, they don't want these townie kids in there. These are for the fancy Eureka people. But Whispering Pines would allow us, but only after we would sweep. So they would give us brooms and we'd have to sweep all the sidewalks and everything around. Then we can go in the pool.
Then you can jump in.
Yep.
You dirty local
I
people.
know. With our, like grimy cutoff shorts or whatever.
The muddy Miranda kids. Yeah.
Well, I always say I was a dirt road kid. I didn't live on a paved street until I was 18 and went off to school.
Wow. Yeah. So tell us the journey. You went to UC Davis.
I did.
But you went to South Fork?
South Fork High. Yeah. My parents were school teachers there.
Oh, wow.
And, South Fork High School, and graduated in 1983. And then off to UC Davis, and
great school.
5 years there, and then worked in Sacramento for a few years, and then came back here.
I was looking. What did you study at Davis?
I was a poli-sci public service, so it was local government, state government, with an emphasis on less book learning and more doing. So I spent a lot of time working in local politics down there. In fact, I was a paid. The student body, I was a student that got paid to be a lobbyist to the city and the county when I was there. And I actually had a staff, and we tracked and did all the work, to represent student interests to both the city of Davis and the county of Yolo.
Yeah.
I did that for a couple of years. And
what a gig.
Oh, yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I had an office on campus. Yeah. I had an office on campus.
Wow.
And, a staff, and we tracked all the stuff. And then I went to all the meetings and got on all the committees in those towns. And we made a big difference, actually. We really did. We were very good organizers back there, pretty practical about things as well. And
Davis is such a great town.
It was. My uncle was a football coach there for many years, and he retired as head coach there in 1992.
The Aggies?
Yeah, the Ags. Go Ags.
The Ags.
And so it was a big family tradition to be going down there all the time anyway. And so my brother and sister went there, my cousins, my uncle and aunt went there. Everybody went there.
Not to be confused with the A&M Aggies in College Station, Texas.
No. This is the
different Aggies.
UC Davis Aggies.
They have hand signals down there. They're a whole group.
No, it was, back then it was a Division II non-scholarship school, and won, I don't know, like 35 straight league champions or something. Yeah.
Oh, they'd come up and just kick Humboldt's tail all the time.
Yeah.
But they were in the same league, Humboldt and Sac and Davis.
Yeah, it was back in the day. It was called the Division II Far West Conference, and it was Chico State, San Francisco State, Humboldt, and a lot of them have all dropped. Sac State and Davis still have football, but everybody else has pretty much dropped it.
Too bad.
Yeah.
I sat next to the Cal Poly president. That always comes up in the show.
Yeah.
Humboldt State. No, that's Cal Poly.
Cal Poly. Oh, yeah. No. You got to get
it right.
There's no such thing as Humboldt State.
And I said, when are you bringing back the football program?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that was
and I go, KHSU. He goes, well, we have KHSU. I go, it's a feed, dude.
Right. It's Sacramento.
He was nice. I mean, he's a great guy. I like Tom. So what's your current, so you graduated Davis, then you went in SAC.
Worked in SAC, worked in policy, and did some other fun stuff. I helped produce events. I worked for a nonprofit that was an association of elected officials statewide, and we did work there in policy. And then I got hired by a consulting firm, and I was 25 years old. And they made me a project manager, which is, pretty cool. And what I found out was they did that because I was the type of person who would just take on any assignment they gave me. And I said, well, I'll figure it out, right? So
Mr. Action.
I did everything from, working with Ernst & Young and doing an analysis of the bottle bill program, and we wrote legislation around reforming that.
Recycling?
Yeah. And then I produced the 1990 Earth Day concert for the state capitol. And,
cool stuff.
Yeah.
Who played there? The Dead?
We had Johnny Otis was our headliner, but we had mostly bands that were in the area at the time in Sacramento, some of the bigger bands.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I did live radio and TV.
Is this the same bill that Wes Chesbro he was on that agency that oversaw?
Correct. Yeah. No, in fact, that's where I met Wesley. Was way back my first job with this local government commission. He was at the time a county board, on the board of supervisors here, and I met him through there.
Right.
And then we got to know each other much better because I was writing regulations for the new bill that passed, and he was appointed to the board, and so we knew each other. Yeah.
You're both Humboldt guys.
We were. Yeah. Although he's not originally from here, so
yeah,
he's almost local. He's only been here like 50 years. So
see, I think he was the one who admitted that he's not actually a Humboldt grad. He did go to Humboldt State at the time. I could say it. I could say that word, but he goes, yeah. And the president, he goes, I'm not actually a grad. He goes, I know.
Yeah.
But an alumnus is anybody that attended.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah. So
and he did pretty well for himself, I think.
Oh, what a nice man. What a great guy.
Yeah.
So what's your current role? What are you doing? Well, let's bring you from SAC. So you came back to Humboldt?
Moved back to Humboldt in 1991. At the tender age of 26, and went to work with a friend of mine named Margaret Gaynor in Arcata. And what it really allowed me to move back was in the few years that I'd been in Sacramento, I'd kind of built up a client network, customer network statewide, so I could come back up here. But most of my work in consulting and was done outside the area, so I traveled all the time.
So you had connections to SAC.
Yeah, and SAC in Southern California.
And that United flight was really vital to you.
We had those little puddle jumpers back then.
Oh yeah.
We also had back then we had American Eagle, who was flying to San Jose, so I could fly on that.
Oh.
Sacramento, San Francisco,
Alaska
up north. Yeah, back then.
Yeah.
But
we'll get to airlines in a minute.
Oh yeah, I'll talk all day about that.
Yeah.
But it was, it's interesting. You don't think about these things, except when you start looking back. That really sort of understanding how our business worked. And we got up to 11 employees, and we had an office here and an office in Oakland.
Wow. With Maggie?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I realized how important it was for anyone wanting to do this kind of work to be here, to be connected. And of course, we didn't have the internet. So
lots of phones and faxes.
Yeah, phones and faxes and the airplanes.
And airplanes and letters.
And letters, yeah.
It was on paper. They had paper letters.
Yeah, it's so funny. You
Weird.
Them
and
out,
newspapers.
Exactly, big newspapers. And it was funny. When I came up here, I said, you can transmit documents. This is pre-internet, but you can transmit documents through the phone line. And I said, well, let's get a modem. And there was an old program called Procom, and you would call the person on the other side and say, okay, your settings are this, my settings are this. Let's make sure they match. And then we'd transmit a document.
That's pre-fax?
Oh, well, no, we had faxes too, but this way you could send it to them and they could edit it and then send it back. That's
pretty cool.
2400 baud modem, so it's just
all day.
Oh yeah, it's just text. It's just wow, look at that. It's going.
It's a 3-page doc.
Well, and we only had one phone line, so it was if someone was calling in, then it was don't answer the phone. I got it plugged into the modem.
There's a big sign on the phone, don't touch it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, pretty. But it, as I said, having that experience sort of informed some of my work that the subsequent 30 years.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So all those connections in SAC served you well when you came back.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's the Sacramento and San Francisco Bay Area.
We need those guys to make change up here.
Yeah, and it was just because there wasn't going to be enough work up here in the field in work that I had, sort of cultivated in the few years I was down there outside of school, after school. So, it was like, okay, well, I brought my work with me. And of course, Maggie had a good network and connections throughout the state. And so we were able to, I did that for 5 years. And then,
what was the nature of her work in agency? She was a consultant?
We were a consulting firm. Yeah. We did a lot of work.
Government?
Solid waste education, a lot of recycling programs. And it was, a heady time at the time. In 1989, the state, passed a bill that said you had to recycle 50% of your solid waste. Wow. And so we went out there and did a lot of consulting on how to do that, and a lot of public education and marketing kind of information. Good. And that was fun. Good. It was fun. Yeah.
We recycle like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, people don't sort of remember what it was like before this bill passed, but the recycling programs are few and far between.
Yeah. Oh, and some, when we visit Boise, Idaho, or wherever, even Medford, they don't. Yeah. There's some recycling, but it's, wait, don't throw that. Well, we don't recycle it, Dad. So there it goes.
What was interesting at the time is, of course, recycling was all about like, well, put it in the bin and take it away. And I ended up starting to work on the other side of the coin on that, which was how do you develop markets for this material, right? Because and we had friends that we worked with quite a bit that were, a lot of the paper was going overseas, so they were paper brokers, and we worked with the scrap. We got hired by the scrap industry to do work, and some of the others. And it was like, oh, how do we develop markets? And just before I'd come up, I'd work on a program and wrote regulations for a state loan program that was going to invest in manufacturers to use recycled materials. It's called the Recycling Market Development Zone Program. And so that's where I started learning about lending. Because people go, wow, what you went to business school and all that. Because I've been a lender for now almost 30 years. And it's like, well, no. Never had an accounting class.
I learned it in real school.
Right. Yeah, you learned it in the trenches, really.
Yeah. So you worked for Redwood Capital Bank?
I did. So when I left Maggie Gaynor Associates, I went and worked at the Humboldt Area Foundation for a few years, and we did some work in economic development around there.
Peter Pennicamp?
Peter, and Kathy Moxon and I worked together. And then in 1999, Redwood Region Economic Development Commission job came up, and I applied for that and got that. And I've been doing that almost continuously since then. I've actually quit that job twice.
Right, because you went back and forth.
Yeah. So I was there for 8 years, and I quit to go work with Patrick Cleary, who was a friend of mine, and helped run. Yeah, exactly. Helped run the radio stations, K-Hum, K-Slug, and The Point for a couple years.
Wow.
And then
those are the big years, right? Kind of formative.
They were. Well, it was funny because and what was great timing is I was like, oh, sure, let's go into smart market radio that's supported by advertising, right when the recession hit. So it was scary, although we built sales through that, and that was just primarily. I think.
Did you live in Ferndale then?
I did, yeah.
Let me show everybody where Ferndale is on my handy-dandy map.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
It's map time.
It's map time.
Ferndale's right over here by Fortuna.
It is.
I don't really want to say the two in concert. Well, I could.
Well, there is a love-hate relationship between Fortuna, and what I always say is Fortunans would love to live in Ferndale, and no, right. That's not true. But yeah, I live in Ferndale. I moved from Arcata to Ferndale in 1997.
My wife just hiked Russ Park and did that whole
thing. Oh, it's beautiful.
She said it was amazing.
It's a real hidden gem there.
Yeah, she saw these neat flowers and
oh gosh, this time of year and a little bit later, the flowers up there are amazing, and it's a big old growth spruce forest, and it's really neat.
So for those that don't know, Ferndale's a Victorian village. People come from all over the world to come see it. Right, it's kind of a special.
Yeah, the whole town is like a national historic place. Landmark, and
I bet it's great off season.
It's. I think it's great all year, but it does get more crowded. Good crowded in the summer. A little more crowded in the summer.
Fair,
and and that's all fun. Yeah, we moved there in '97, and then the kids were raised there, and
super friendly. Though
one of them still live there. Oh, yeah, wow. I think so. Yeah.
I like the steeple and the shows that Paul does over there.
Oh, amazing stuff. Yeah, amazing stuff. And he's done a great. He and actually it was another guy before him did a great job of. Restoring that church because it was pretty much run down and abandoned when I moved to town in '97.
Magical church.
It is. It's gorgeous now.
And then Tuya's Tacos. Gloria does a great job.
Yeah, one of Redex's customers.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
How about the Jersey Boys? Are they?
Is
it Jersey Scoops?
Jersey Scoops and Lolita. We financed that as well.
Oh, did you?
Yep.
Yeah, Joni It says fabulous. We've got to go and go check it out. And
Ferndale's been great. I mean, Redec, we've actually provided loans to Blacksmith Shop and Ferndale Pizza, the Red Front Store, Tuyas, Golden Gate Mercantile, Francis Enos Fire Repair. Yeah, so we've done a lot of financing.
What about the North Coast Journal store with the local product?
Yeah, they did that themselves. Yeah, that's a great little store.
What's it called?
Oh gosh, Humboldt Hometown or something like that.
Pretty cool. They got.
We just say the old bank, right? But
it's the old bank.
It's the old bank.
Should get Lost Bagels to move down there.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah. Well, we have Patch's Pastries just open, so now we have ice cream and
nice.
These pastries, and then the Farmer's Daughter just expanded. So that's a great little store too. So,
Who was Was it Joe Coaches that used to be the blacksmith?
Blacksmith Shop, yeah.
Is he still living?
No, he passed away. But years ago, we helped him working with Six Rivers Bank, and who's also passed away. And we helped them expand into a second building.
The bank passed away.
Yeah. The Six Rivers Bank is gone.
I remember him as being a nice guy. We brought a bunch of students. I was a student at Humboldt doing student work with other kids, and we did a field trip there.
Yeah.
He was a cool guy.
Oh, yeah. No, he's a really cool guy.
And in Hobart, his shop and everything was down there.
Oh, and we also financed the Mind's Eye coffee shop that's in there.
Oh, yeah. That's a nice coffee shop.
That's another one that we did. Yeah. So we've been pretty heavily invested.
So you've been up to Hobart's place when he was living?
Back in the day. Yeah, that was a crazy spot.
That was creepy. I went up there and I go, I'm pretty dull when it comes to spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
I was in there, I'm going, shit, this is weird stuff here.
yeah, he was quite
I'm feeling something weird here.
Well, and the downstairs is all that sort of unfinished redwood, barnwood with the sculptures on it and everything. And it's like, God forbid anybody drop a cigarette or set this place on fire. It'll flame. It'll be gone in a minute. But it survived. It survived.
It's all redwood, folks. Yeah. So tell us more about your current role. What you went back and forth from K-Hum, and where else did you? And then we'll come back to your job that you.
Sure. So I left
your current job that you've left several times.
Right. Yeah. I have left. I have quit only twice. I've returned 3 times.
But they brought you back. That's the main.
Yeah, that's it exactly. So then so I did a couple years at Las Vegas Communications, and then came back to Redec in 2009. Worked there for a few years. They'd had some personnel issues and stuff that I came and helped fix and got it back up on its feet. And then one day John Dalby comes in, gives me a holler, and says, "Hey, let's go to coffee." And so I did. And he says, "Why don't you come work with Redwood Capital Bank?" And I said, "Well, that'd be fun." I'd been a lender at that point for quite a while, and it was a good opportunity to go over there and sort of learn how banks do it. And I did that for 3 years. And
successful banks.
Yeah. Well, and they're just, this month is their 20th anniversary.
It's so hard to believe.
No, exactly.
And Costco's been here 150 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Where'd time go?
I know. And that's, I do remember when he was forming it. I still have his card somewhere. It says, John Dalby, Humboldt.
Bank.
I have the Humboldt Bank, but I also have Redwood Capital Bank. Parenthesis information.
And there's a collectible.
Yeah, exactly. So I went and did commercial lending there for a few years. Helped open the branch in Arcata.
Nice.
And develop that.
And he's a nice guy.
Yeah, yes.
How do you figure his following works? I mean, he's like Mick Jagger. He just brings people with him.
Maybe so. Well, I wasn't loyal. I ended up leaving.
Except for you.
Yeah, exactly. Except for me. And then in 2015, I went back to Redec, and I've been there ever since. And that's probably my last job change because I'm getting too old to keep hopping around.
Yeah. So. You're 50?
I'm 58.
Oh, you're 58. Sorry, my bad. Nice try at flattery.
On the cusp of 59. I'll be 59 in June.
Nice. So I want to talk about the current job, what you do, and I want to talk about airlines.
Sure.
And then I want to talk about what you see, what the current needs are, and what what will need to be and where we're going. Is that okay?
Oh, absolutely.
Let's do that.
Hey, it's your show.
So, your show.
You locked the door from the inside. I can't get out.
Yeah,
so
you're stuck.
I'm stuck here.
Nick, don't let him go anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere.
His name's Nick.
Yeah, just remember to feed me later.
So where do we start? So what is your job title? What do you do now specifically?
So I'm executive director of Redwood Region Economic Development Commission.
Were you always the director?
I was always the executive director. Yeah, I was hired as the boss and just remained there. So our primary, there's two ways to describe Redec, what it is and what it does, right? And so what we do primarily is lend money to small businesses and organizations, local organizations who can't get funding through sort of traditional sources, or can't get all the funding they need.
Okay.
So that could be a startup. It could be someone who hasn't got a long history, maybe someone who's having some issues in their business, whatever.
Would that include the cannabis industry?
We couldn't do that.
There's some regs around that.
Yeah, because we were originally capitalized by the federal government. And as a result, we can't play in the cannabis space. Yeah. But that was all, quite honestly, it was a space that didn't need that when it was building here.
There's a lot of money coming in.
A lot of investment capital on that. And now when it needs it, it's probably not a place I'd put it.
It's tried. Yes.
Because so we right now, I think we have 58 or 59 businesses and organizations in our portfolio, probably about $10 to $12 million out right now. Some of that's Headwaters Fund money from the county because we participate loans with them. So that's a blast. I mean, I just love doing that. We've done, a lot of the marquee businesses around here. One that's just celebrating its 20th anniversary is Six Rivers Brewery.
Nice.
We financed that. We did.
Success,
yeah. We participated with Redwood Capital Bank and did the loan for the Dick Taylor expansion. And
oh, wow.
The Eagle House, we did that.
Those are all big ones, yeah.
Yeah. And then all the ones I mentioned.
Do you mean Dick Taylor?
Yeah. Dick Taylor.
This Dick Taylor?
Dick Taylor.
Dick Taylor Chocolates.
Bean to Bar right here in Eureka, California.
Hey, Dusty. Hi, Adam.
Yeah. I watched the Adam podcast.
Bean to Bar. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they say. We're Bean to Bar all in one spot.
You gave me an analogy. If you bought a $5,000 bottle of scotch, it's the equivalent of a $10 Dick Taylor chocolate bar in terms of it's the top of the of the mark chocolate.
Yeah.
And I go, I think chocolate's a better deal.
I couldn't probably tell the difference. Maybe I could of a 5,000 to something considerably less than scotch, but Dick Taylor is it's the only thing I don't like about it is it's right near my office, and so it's hard to resist going over there.
I thought you were going to say I never go because it's like when you live by Disneyland, you never go.
Oh yeah, no, it's hard, and especially when I get out in the morning and they're roasting beans or doing something.
Oh my gosh,
everything smells like chocolate.
And their coffee is really quite good.
Gosh,
their mocha's
delicious. Yeah.
Yeah, Joni has to stop there a lot. And so that's a cool part of your job. You get to see the success stories.
So I think, I think about doing this since 1999, and I haven't figured, one of these days I'll just sit down and tick through every business that we've been able to help over the years. Eel River Brewery, we did their new brew house in Scotia and then helped them with their expansion that they just opened a new brew house. And, so we've done
is that in the Scotia Hotel?
We did that one as well, Scotia Lodge, yeah.
Okay, and that's a restaurant, right?
A restaurant and hotel, yeah.
Who runs that?
John and Amy O'Connor.
Humboldt Bay Social?
Yeah. Yeah, they have the Humboldt Bay Social as well.
Nice. And so you're saying there's a brewery down there now?
Well, the Eel River, Eel River Brewery that's based in Fortuna, when they went to expand their brew house, they did that in an old mill building in Scotia.
Oh.
And that went for quite a while, and now they've just basically expanded that brew house and brought it back next to their restaurant facility in Fortuna. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's kind of fun. We've done all sorts of different kind of businesses, and it's a lot of fun. Not all succeed, but we have a pretty good track.
So is Ross and Arcata Economic
correct? Kind
of a parallel?
Yeah, we always say we're friendly. We're collaborative competitor. So we do compete some for business. But we're both relatively small, so in terms of the total need out there, there's plenty to go around. But we've also worked together. So we've done loans where each of us has a piece. And
that's nice.
Yeah, so
and he's a great guy.
Yeah. No, and we worked together for a long time.
And John Dalby's nice.
Yeah, we're all nice, right?
John and I were in a men's group, and he's just like harassing me, and I go, "What's going on?" He go, "If he doesn't harass you, he probably doesn't like you."
Right, exactly. There you go.
He must love me.
Yeah, there you go. So, right.
There you go.
There's a bell curve. It's like he's harassing me because he likes me. Now, where am I?
Now it's love.
Yeah, it's love. Now it goes to hate. There you go.
So tell me about airlines and your role in bringing airlines here, and why they come and go, and the deregulation under Reagan and.
Well, it's funny. I kind of, just like lending, it's one of those things I just sort of stumbled into. And in 2003, and it goes back to what I said earlier, which is connecting Humboldt County was incredibly important for sort of the next wave of business that I thought. And so I went to a conference in San Diego in like 2000, 2001. And I went to a session where they're talking about small businesses graduating out of UC San Diego technology incubator. And the moderator was a guy who I became friends with, who was an editor of the San Diego Business Journal. And I said, "Do you know where Humboldt is?" And he goes, "Yeah, I do. In fact, I've been up there." And I was like, So, what of these people would, what could we offer these folks coming out of these tech incubators? And maybe they even move up there. He says, "I only know 2 questions. How good is your broadband and how good is your air service?"
Whoa.
And at the time, it was like, neither was great. Right. Broadband certainly wasn't. Air service was okay. We had United and American.
We had a single cable going down to Willits getting chucked.
Well, yeah, but at that time that didn't exist. So, so we were still on a microwave system there. So I came back and I said, okay, so air service and broadband. That's where I'm going to focus for a long time.
Yeah,
I didn't think it'd be this long, but it was. And so, so in 2003, the then airport manager, a woman by the name of Teresa Askew, contacted me and says, "Hey, we're working with this consultant and the city of Redding. We're putting together a grant application to the federal government. And the goal is to get Alaska Airlines to start flying to Los Angeles. Can you help with that? I need a letter of support." And I said, "Sure, I can do a letter of support. That's easy." So I wrote a letter of support. And they didn't get the grant. And the feedback was that there wasn't enough demonstration of local community support. And for it. It was just a guy writing a letter in it. So I said, "Okay, Teresa, turn me loose," right? And so I ended up getting a bunch of letters from all the politicians and everything, and we actually raised money from people to do as a match. And we ended up getting the grant. The city of Redding was the lead on that. Huh. And so we got the grant, and subsequently they put in what was called a minimum revenue guarantee, which was kind of a new thing back then. And that's a contract. It's kind of an incentive contract. Like if they do well, you don't have to pay them. But if they don't do well, you pay them a little bit.
And that's out of that grant money,
right?
That pot of money.
Exactly. So we put that in place. Well, then we thought, well, what we don't want to have to do is provide the incentive, or and we want them to succeed. So. I was like, "Well, how do you advertise? What kind of marketing program are you doing for this?" And I was like, "Oh, well, yeah, we should." So we started doing local marketing for that. That service started in June of 2005. Later that year, I get a call from the consultant because I thought it was a one-off for me, right? Okay, we get donated a bunch of advertising at Lost Coast to talk about Alaska.
Cool. And we brought Alaska here.
Yeah, and got Alaska to go to LA. And then, so I thought that was kind of a one-off. I was kind of, how's it performing, kind of staying in touch. But I was working a couple of years later at Lost Coast Communications, and I get a call from the consultant and said, "Hey, Delta might want to service your territory and go to Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake,
Are you guys interested?" And I said, "Well, I'm just working at a radio station now, but let me, yeah,
I'm spinning vinyl,
right." So, so the airport manager at the time and the public works director and I and the consultant, we put together this big presentation. We went down to Atlanta, did a presentation to a room full of people about why they should invest here. And so Delta decided, and I get a call, and I had my first cell phone at the time. Like, "Oh, I get a call on my cell phone, cool." And I had to go out, pull the antenna up and go out in the parking lot, And Delta had said, "Yeah, we'll do it, but you need to provide $500,000 in incentives and $500,000 in pre-sold tickets."
I remember that now.
Yeah, and you got about 6 weeks to get this all in place, and we did it. So I worked with Rhythmic, who I wasn't employed with at the time, and just a huge community coalition came together and really helped that.
Who was the director of Rhythmic then?
It was a woman by the name of Madeline Holtkamp, and she was only there for about a year and left. But so we built this. And a huge coalition of people, local businesses, everything else.
It's a lot of pre-sale tickets.
Yeah, it was. And everybody got it. What they got was a Delta card that had cash value on it, and right, you could use it. So we did that. The service, at the time, this is like, oh gosh, I'm trying to think. It started in 2007, so it must have been 2006, 2005. So just before the recession, right?
Right before, yeah.
So the service starts oil goes to $140 a barrel, which is like all the airlines are losing money.
Going nuts.
And then that was the first half of the service. Second half of the service, the recession hits.
There you go.
So it was like, well, great. So that service lasted a little over a year, but it had great usage, and but the whole industry was collapsing. So we lost that service, and there's not too long after that is when Alaska pulled out of the market as well.
Our friend was the manager of the local depot.
Oh, okay.
Brandon? He's a great guy.
Yeah. And it was, we were really the victims, quite honestly, of just national and international economics at the time. Yeah. And we suffered as a result. So, but not deterred and not daunted. We just kept at it. And I did a recruitment, worked hard. We had actually negotiated a contract with American Airlines to do Los Angeles service here starting in June of 2012. Mm-hmm. But, it might have been later than June, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, we had a good contract with them. We negotiated them down from $2 million to $500,000 in a
pretty good
conference room or in Tampa, Florida, at a conference.
Is that where they're based?
No, it was an airline conference going on there. We met with their VP and it was Emily Jacobs and I, and we came back with this great deal, and unfortunately, it was an election year here, and one of the candidates who was ran these anti-American airlines ads. How dare we give incentives to da-da-da-da.
Wow.
So what we thought was that the support we would have when we got back from the county evaporated.
That person get elected?
Yeah. They're not on the board anymore, but yeah. So
not mentioning names, but rhymes with
rhymes with Benel. Let's just say. Anyway, so
let me think.
Benel, yeah. And so unfortunately, American had already stuck us in their schedule, and
here they come, right?
And we're selling tickets, and then the deal fell apart.
Oh man! But they did come, right? Weren't they?
Well, later, yeah.
Okay.
But they so we pivoted and started working on getting United to do the same. And we were still we'd talk to 5 or 6 airlines 3 or 4 times a year and do our presentations to them. Mm-hmm. And we had a draft contract in 2012 with United to do the same thing, and then United killed it. We kept at them, and they started in 2018. So these things are long developers, right?
Yeah.
So I became the Fly Humboldt. We started that. It was a big countywide collaboration. We had the top employers involved. We had everybody involved. So we did the 2 that we were our biggest recruits was the LA and the Denver, and those started in 2018 and 2019. Mm-hmm. And then once service starts happening, people take notice, and so some of the other airlines took notice, I think, and then we saw Velo come in and American for a while to Phoenix.
And Velo still does Burbank?
Yes, they do,
but not Vegas.
No, they started Vegas. They did not have a good schedule. And to be clear, I'm no longer involved in air service here. The county decided to go a different direction, as they say. I was like, it's the only job I've ever been fired from that I never was paid to do. But
like a Seinfeld episode.
Yeah. So the county, there was a lot of changes that occurred in the county. One of the things, I was chair of the aviation advisory committee at part of this period of time. And I kept saying, we can manage this place better. And so for 6-8 years, we pushed to have a big management study done. And that occurred, I think it was 2018 when it was done, 2019.
Management of the airport?
Aviation system, yeah. And the management study was pretty pointed in its criticisms of how especially the finances were being handled. Wow. And after that study was published, the FAA gave a management letter basically saying, you need to fix this or you're going to have to reimburse the federal government $50 million.
Crazy.
And then there was a lawsuit, and the United States government sued the county. Whoa. And this all occurred in 2019, 2020. And shortly thereafter, my phone quit ringing. They didn't need my help anymore. So I think
then COVID,
yeah, exactly. So now they've taken that program inside the county. It's running out of county economic,
and they've extended the runway. That was part of it, right?
Well, that was done before. Yeah. So we have, interestingly, REDAC provided financing to the county to both the terminal and runway expansion projects.
How about that?
Yeah. The fund retention, because it takes a long time to get
You guys
paid.
are everywhere.
We've done a lot. Yeah. It's pretty exciting.
It's funny. So airlines is close to home for all of us. It's literally close to my home. It's about a quarter mile away.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So some of those planes that go off are bigger. It seems like, or louder.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they
not necessarily louder, but they are bigger.
Yeah, and it's interesting because coming home, you can see how much people are traveling because they're in the third lot down. It's full.
Right. And, there's this thing. I mean, when I started airline recruiting work in 2013 or 2004, 2005, the biggest plane we had was a 76 seater here that was called the big prop plane that Alaska ran. It's called a Dash 8 or a Q400, depending on which they were running. And that was a big turboprop. And then our other planes that we ran were, 19-seat Jetstreams and 30-seat Embraer Brasilias.
Right.
And those were 30, 32 seats, depending on configuration. And so, now we're running EMB 175s, or E175s, which are 75, 76 seats, running the 737, which is 189 seats.
Those are bigger,
These are huge aircraft.
Are those United?
The Velo runs the 737.
You can tell they're louder.
Yeah. And then United's running 50 and 75.
Is a Velo twice a week now, right? Is it, or did they?
They're going up to 4. I think now they throw in an extra departure in the high season. Yeah, and they just established a crew base in Santa Rosa. So Santa Rosa just got 4 more Velo destinations.
Oh, that's cool.
Santa Rosa is a really big place, and it's funny.
It is.
After I recruited Delta, and we had a lot of success, and we're making some names for ourselves outside the area on this, recruitment and stuff, because we were really leaders, and certainly in small airports, in using these financial incentives and doing all this stuff. I had a county supervisor call me from Sonoma County, a guy named Paul Kelly, and he was friends with Glenn Goldan, who lived up here.
Sure, I knew Glenn. He was my landlord.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and Glenn had said, call Gregg, because at the time Santa Rosa didn't have any air service.
At all? Because now it's huge.
Right, exactly.
They're remodeled and everything.
Right. So Paul and I had a number of calls together, and he's like, how do you do this recruitment? I said, okay, well, here's the firm we use. I'm no expert, right? But here's the firm we use, and here's, build your business support first in the community and get your political support, and know that you have to invest, and also know that it's a long-term process that eventually should pay off.
And they're still growing, right?
Right. And so they got, they had no service. They I guess, put together an air service fund and got the community behind it, and pressured and, really worked on United to get a service.
Some of this is you sharing the secret sauce and how to do that.
Well, it's interesting. I still get calls from out of the area. People want, like, hey, how did you do this? Or whatever.
Best job you never had.
Right. Exactly. I don't get calls from here, but I get calls from out of the area. So it's nice. And,
that's how it works.
Things happen, right? Things happen. I always want to leave things better than I found them. Sure. And I think I left the air service system here much better than I found it. And
sounds like it was a leader in how to do it. So
yeah, I'm one of the old guard now. I would literally
now you're the old guy.
I went to a conference a couple years ago. I think one of my last air service conferences, and they asked the question. It was a session being led by the airport manager of Phoenix, and they said, "Well, how many of you have done these certain things?" And I kept raising my hand. I go, "Well, God, you keep raising your hand. How long have you been doing this?"
Put your hand down over there.
Yeah, and I have a lot of friends in the industry, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, And they said, "Well, when did you do your first MRG?" And I said, "Well, we did one with in an air travel bank in 2004 and 5. Put it in place for services that started around then." And they're like, "Oh my gosh, that was
you're really old.
You're really old." Yeah, exactly. So,
you're a vet.
You're right. So that was really fun, and we did that in broadband stuff at the same time. And so we got into the first the fight to get the first fiber optic line here, and Redwoods got really involved in that.
That's the one that goes down 101 through Willits.
Correct. Yeah. And then once we got the first one done, I was working with us and then the Redwood Technology Consortium. We started advocating for a second one. Mm-hmm. And Patrick talked to you on the podcast about, hey, we contacted PG&E and said, hey, we want to build a fiber optic line. Yeah. We don't know. We're kind of all bluff. But we said, we want to build this new second fiber optic line. Can we use your right of way for free? And it was just a total Hail Mary.
And they said
sure.
Yes.
It was funny. Jack McCown, who was the director of business development, he's just long since retired, but at PG&E, he calls and, he's talking to us and he's like, we're actually pretty intrigued by this idea. And then he said, is the Ivanhoe still there in Ferndale? I said, yeah. He goes, oh, I love the Ivanhoe. Okay, I'm coming up. And so he came up.
Tell you what, we're having dinner and you're buying.
Right. And so we went down and met with him, and then he introduced us to the company that PG&E was using to build their fiber network. And
whoa.
And that was in must have been
that's one over Highway 36?
Highway 36, yes.
So let's go back to the map.
Yeah.
so 101 runs up and down this way.
It does.
And 36 is over here at Fortuna.
Goes
so Fortuna. They had all the way to Red Bluff, right?
They went to Cottonwood, yeah, but
Cottonwood,
yeah, close. Yeah, that was a big switch over there.
Cottonwood's not very warm in the summer.
No. So that was built over and Connie Stewart got involved and helped a lot with raising public funds from the California Advanced Services Fund and to fund that project. And we built the second fiber optic line from Eureka to Cottonwood. And so then we had a second service. So if one went down, the other one would.
Redundancy is everything, yeah.
Yeah. And now if you look at it, they're building, we've got a fiber optic line going from Eureka to Singapore. It's being built right now.
When will that be done?
It's soon. I mean,
is it just ships dumping fiber as they're
rolling the big spools of fiber across.
All the way across the ocean.
And it's not just fiber. They also have to build facilities in the bottom of the ocean, which are power regenerators to regenerate the signal as it's coming across and some other stuff. And then there's another company that's building a line, and this is all private at this point, from basically the intertie at the Harbor District over to Redding. So we'll have another one going east. We'll have one going north and south.
How will they build that? Will it be over?
They're working on it right now. Yeah. So it's along 299, not just in the highway, but along that general path.
Got it.
Some of it's yeah. So anyway, it's really kind of exciting because we went. I mean, literally, I remember before the first fiber optic line when I worked in Arcata, and again, we were doing a lot of work out of the area. And when it was really rainy, we couldn't even call out of Humboldt County because the microwave system microwaves lose capacity when it's bad weather.
Right.
So it's like, oh, this is no good. You couldn't send a fax.
What are we going to do?
Yeah, right. It's like, we got to
64 flood.
Yeah, exactly. So, the things that we were dealing with in 1991, I'm still working on now.
So the fiber hub is where in Arcata, right, where Copeland Lumber used to be?
Yeah. So there's
that the company?
There's a big facility there it's like a server facility so people can buy in there and put their stuff. And I think that, my hunch, and this is not rocket science, not just my hunch, is that once these projects are complete, we'll see a lot of other people coming up and saying, okay, yeah, we
could build a plant in Redwoods.
The Humboldt County, especially the Humboldt Bay, will have one of the best, fiber networks in the world.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's a pretty big thing, right?
It is. Well, and what's funny is, we have that project, and we have the Nordic Aqua Farms project, which is sort of quietly going forward now, and it's huge. Yeah. And both of them sort of gotten kicked off the front page because of the offshore wind stuff. So it just goes to show how different my job is, and all of our jobs are now, than they were 25 years ago.
Shifted, yeah. So the offshore wind thing's a go-to. That's still
it's we want to try. Yeah, I mean, there's some major hurdles to get over still. The biggest one, and we don't hear a lot about, is that they can't transport power out of here because there's not enough transmission capacity.
Interesting.
And, Schatz Energy Lab did a study that says that build the transmission infrastructure to get the power out is anywhere from $7 to $40 billion.
I thought they would have worked on that before they thought about generating power.
It's supposedly all happening at the same time. But, the thing the offshore wind needs is two things, right? One of it is the ability to actually transport the electrons. And the other is actual identification and knowing the pricing and everything for where they're going to sell that power. So those are called power purchase contracts. And so
wouldn't they sell it back to PG&E over in the valley?
Well, it all goes to the Cal ISO, which is the California Independent System Operator. They're the ones that really manage the grid, and they don't buy power necessarily, but they, you have, like in Humboldt County, we have a power purchaser, which is the Redwoods Energy Authority, right? And they buy power and then sell it. So, you got to identify markets because, ultimately it's a business, right? And it takes a certain amount of, you're making widgets. In this case, you're making electrons.
Right.
And you got to sell that electron for more than you cost to make it, right? And so the rules of business always apply, right? Revenue has to exceed expense. I don't care what you're doing, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. So I had two questions for you that I want to talk about your legacy and what's on your tombstone and all that. Who are you? What do you want?
Right.
So you've served on a bunch of boards.
I have.
I mean,
many boards.
I'm on my first board. I'm on the
I can't remember where you are.
I can't. What was your name?
Okay.
I'll tell you in a minute. I'm on my first board. It's really exciting.
Nice.
I've been to one meeting.
Yeah, right.
I've been to like 1,000 boards. I'm looking at this.
There's about 20 different boards.
This guy's got a huge board resume.
Yeah, I know.
May you never get bored.
I never will. No. Yeah.
I like it. And that's great service. So of all these boards and then business people you've done business with, what couple of memorable stories that you're happy, proud about? I got to serve under Rex. Whoever. What's your? Anything come to mind?
I'm most proud at Redec when I go up and down the street and I can look at. And when I say Redec, it's not me. It's the team. I mean, Redec is a team. I couldn't work without them. They couldn't work without me. But when we go up and down the street and see the businesses that we financed, and see them like Talia and Meredith, like we're celebrating our 20th anniversary. And it's like, oh my gosh,
6 Rivers,
20 years ago, right? And
they've expanded out. They got their patio and the whole.
And if I go into Eagle House and I'm having dinner at the tavern and Tim Metz, one of the owners, comes up and goes, we couldn't have done this without you. I mean, that feels great, right?
Pretty warm feeling.
You're making a real difference. That's good. In terms of the board service, well, gosh, there's been I can't even remember all the boards that I've been on, but one of the things I do that popped in my mind this morning is the Discovery Museum, and they're doing the Perilous Plunge, which is a really fun
coming right
event.
up, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I was the co-founder of that event.
Really?
When I was president of the board of the Discovery Museum back then. And jumped off that first year.
They're right next door. They're a good neighbor.
Oh yeah, and great organizations back when we were down in Old Town. So, those are the things I like. It's like, oh, yeah, I was able to use whatever skills I have.
That's an event that's still ongoing.
Right. And a great organization that can help move forward.
Bless the organization, yeah.
I'm not it's funny, like I said earlier, I didn't go to business school and I didn't do that. But, after 25 years of lending and working for businesses and probably $50-60 million in financings I've done in Humboldt County, or I don't even know how much, but if I got 10 under my belt right now, then over 25 years it's got to be more, right?
Right.
But one of the things I bring to these boards is, and one of the things I really stress for these nonprofits and organizations is really mind your finances, right? No margin equals no mission.
Wow, nice.
And so I've been, I'm treasurer of 2 boards right now. And I'm on the on the finance committee for another.
So you look at numbers. You're a spreadsheet guy. Kind
of, yeah. And not like an accounting piece, but it's like, okay, tell me the story, right? What's happening here? And balance sheets more than profit and loss statements. But it's like, tell me where you are and try to ask those questions. It's really important for board members to understand that. And so many people join boards because they're really passionate about the topic, right? They're very mission oriented. And the finance stuff kind of goes by the side. I don't understand it. I don't want to act like I don't understand it, so I don't ask any questions.
I don't look at it.
Right, you guys, boring. Let's talk about the programs we're doing.
I'm in denial.
Right. Well, and so as I said, no margin equals no mission.
No mission,
right? Because you don't have the money, you're not gonna be able to do all the cool
It's like
stuff.
Retirement, no health, no money.
Right, exactly.
How fun is that?
Yeah, exactly. So I've helped a number of nonprofits with that, both either on their board or we've actually done some funding for organizations that hit a patch.
How about a couple of people that were fun to work with along the way?
Oh my gosh.
You mentioned a couple already, and Dolby.
There's so many,
Patrick, of course.
Yeah, there's so many. I hate to point people out because then I'm going to leave someone out that I didn't mean to,
Everyone was fun.
Right. Well, not everyone. I can say that for sure. Not everyone was fun to work with.
You were on that list.
Right. But, one of the things, and I've lived here essentially almost all my life, and I've been involved in so many organizations and worked with so many businesses. And, my board is 19, or there's actually 16 that have appointed, but 19 local jurisdictions. So I've been, anytime I have 16 elected officials on my board of directors.
Wow.
And so, I can't get away with anything in this town because everybody knows me. And but you have to say I'm a people person. I really enjoy working with people, and trying to get them towards a place where, we're focused on a pretty hard target, objective. I'm pretty impatient with a lot of talk, except when it's coming from me, of course. But
that's different.
Yeah, I have this sort of ADD approach to meetings. And it's like 15, 20 minutes, and if it's not exciting or not moving forward, I'm bouncing out of my chair and walking around, It's like,
Yeah, who isn't? Yeah.
Right, yeah. But the thing about doing finance is it's meaningful, right? It's you can't flub it.
Well, it tells stories.
Yeah. And these things have to work, right? And the money has to go out and it has to come back. Your business has to make money, and
it's a scorecard.
Right. And so you can't fake that or fluff it over, with a lot of words. It's like you got to pay your bills, right?
And often is it too much money the problem? That's usually not the problem.
Right. No, yeah. And so there's some business, I just looking around at the businesses that we financed over the years, from, Oric to Garberville and Willow Creek and everywhere in between. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
That's long-term legacy stuff.
Well, we helped, I think the financing is obviously important, but the owners are doing 98% of the work, right?
You got it started.
I put a little fuel in the tank, but they're driving the tractor, right?
I like that. Good metaphor.
Yeah.
So I always end with this: who are you? What do you want? And what's it say on Gregg's tombstone?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm Gregg Foster.
Good to meet you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Child of Southern Humboldt. And what do I want? Health and happiness. I got great kids.
Nice.
My son and his wife live in Ferndale in the house he grew up in. And
Whoa.
My second son lives down in Watsonville with his partner, and they are great kids.
Are you grandpa?
Huh? No, not yet. I suspect, at some point.
Probably happen.
Yeah. And the nice thing as I age is that my oldest son married a physical therapist, so she's right up the street. So, it's like, I got a little, that's great. My parents live down the street, so like my parents, my son. And,
still living.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're 82 and 84. They live.
Great.
So we're all together as family, and that's
awesome.
great. So that's kind of all I really want. Have fun.
Yeah.
And I want it to stop raining this weekend so I can go out and work in the yard.
Well, stop today. It's beautiful.
Right. And I guess my tombstone is he left it better than he found it. And
nice.
That's really all I want. I moved back here. I had this sort of career path laid out when I got out of college, and it wasn't going to involve coming back to Humboldt. But I came back to Humboldt, and without being, I try not to be parochial, but I'm certainly a hometowner. I think, we have kind of a rosy, everybody has a rosy look of when they grew up, right? Because you had no responsibility as a kid. You can go, this place was great when we were kids.
The projects were awesome.
Yeah. This place was just great when we were kids. And, it's still great now. And it's different. I think, we're going through a lot of transition now. When I started this job, it was, how do we stop the bleeding? And try to help people turn it around. And now it's, oh my gosh, we've got all these projects, all this stuff going on. But for me, I really focus my attention, on helping folks that maybe aren't getting all that direct largesse, and also like the communities that are still suffering. Southern Humboldt, my home area, Oric,
big time.
Willow Creek.
Well, it's boom and bust with cannabis, right?
Yeah.
You want to talk about that for 10 seconds? That is busting, right?
The
numbers are there.
Busted.
Busted. Okay. Past tense.
And that ripples all the way through the county because there was a lot of cash that fell out of the system over the last few years, and that was spent everywhere, right?
Yeah,
that was spent on cars, on diesel, on
all the way down the line,
clothes, on everything. And
jewelry.
So when you draw that much cash out of an area, everyone's sort of feeling it. And so while we have this promise of something that might happen in 10 years with offshore wind,
right now we're in limbo land.
We really got to focus on, I think, who needs our help right now.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not the one that goes on all the junkets to the offshore, it's like, let's go to Europe and look at offshore wind and learn about it. It's like, nah, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to stay here.
And
I'm going to be an irritant on behalf of the town of Oric or Southern Humboldt or that, because these are the people who need help now. Right. And maybe it's just because I'm a dirt road kid, and that's where my heart lies. But
that's good.
Yeah.
Hey, one last question.
Yeah.
Political question.
Oh gosh.
I know you're going to.
I work for a board of elected officials, so watch me punt that question.
Why did Scott do this to me? So I used to visit your office, and your office is full of political memorabilia.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
that's all I wanted to say. It's you got some cool shit on.
I
the wall.
do, and I wish I don't have as many walls now because I moved into the building.
You got Nixon and Reagan. And
Clinton, I've got a ton of political presidential buttons going back to the 30s.
Poli-sci major, why not?
Yeah, exactly. And then at home, I've got tons of pamphlets and bumper stickers and everything up.
That's
in the
funny.
attic. Yeah.
That's pretty nerdy.
It is very nerdy. Yeah. No, I don't. I'll admit that all day. I'm a nerd.
Hey, appreciate it.
It's fun.
Appreciate you being here, Greg.
Yeah.
Thanks for the good talk, and hope to have you back. And
78% of what I said was true. So
that's pretty good stats.
Yeah,
actually.
that's pretty good.
That's coming from a numbers guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks again for coming.
Oh, thank you. We'll see you.
Take care.